That's the stuff. Hello, everybody. All right. Seems like 15 minutes ago we were in the same room.
Were you here for the password game? Anybody? Did you enjoy that? Was it fun? Oh, we had fun.
Just pulling the equipment apart. I hope they don't mind.
Don't invite Epcar back. He ruins everything.
Hello, hello.
Can you guys hear us okay?
How's it sound?
Sweet! How's everybody today? Nice. Got a Sherlock Holmes there. I like that hat. Very nice. Sherlock Holmes. The game's afoot, Watson.
Is it possible?
Why is it we're always next to the raves? Why is that?
Is it possible to turn the air down a little bit? It's really cold.
Did you have a question?
It's true.
Oh, I know. They always do. They always do. It's crazy. They always put us next to the rave.
You know, let's just make it really tough
Yeah.
to be heard.
You want to do a panel, and we're gonna put you next to a U2 concert or something. That shows you how old I am. That's the most boisterous group I can come up with off the top of my head. Suicide punks. Maybe that's better.
So,
that sounds more dangerous, right?
This is the Ghost in the Shell panel.
Ghost in the Shell.
And we gather all of you who love Ghost in the Shell, right?
Got some Ghost in the Shell fans?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, goodbye. You look so sad. This guy is waving me goodbye. So anyway, I started doing Ghost in the Shell a long time ago. I was brought in to audition for this movie. It was the original movie, Ghost in the Shell film, for this man, Kevin Seymour, who brought a lot of anime to America, in particular Ghost in the Shell.
Who just passed away a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he passed away a little while ago. So anyway, I went and auditioned for this, and I thought, this is really a cool movie. I liked it immensely. I liked this whole idea of, the cyber brain and that whole thing, and all of this technology and the morality of the use of technology. I thought that was really, really a cool idea. And I just loved it. I didn't think anything of it, and then literally about 3 or 4 years later, they called me up and they said, "You remember that Ghost in the Shell movie? You played Bateau?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, we have a series now called Standalone Complex, which is Ghost in the Shell, and we'd like you to audition for it." I said, "But I did the thing in the movie." They said, "Yeah, but we'd like you to come and audition." I said, "Okay, great, that's wonderful." And in my head, I'm going, "You sons of bitches." I go, "Okay, I'll come and I'll audition for the Ghost in the Shell thing." And there was like 200 guys there auditioning for Bateau. And I think I got it because I sounded a lot like that guy in the movie. So. But they didn't bring back everybody. The only two that made the series from the movie was myself as Bateau and William Knight as Aramaki. Bateau, you in the major. So we had him, and then they recast everybody. So I felt very, very, very fortunate to go into the series. I love doing it. I love doing the character Bateau. He's one of my favorite characters. And we just had a lot of fun doing that. And then later on, this is a long, crazy story, but later on, Ellyn and our son went to school at Berklee College of Music in Boston. And we were doing Anime Boston one year, and I happened to see this giant poster of Innocence, Ghost in the Shell Innocence. I go, "Oh my God, that's incredible." And I found out later, I thought was going to be the same people, but DreamWorks owned the rights to that particular movie. And I thought, well, it'd be really great, because usually when the studios own the rights, they cock it all up, you know, they'll hire, you know, they'll probably get Johnny Depp to play Bateau, and, you know, something like that, screw it all up. So I thought, well, if I can play Bateau, if they're going to have movie stars do the roles, then I would at least like to direct it or write it, or, you know, because they're not, that's really not their forte, doing that sort of work. And we were just trying to figure out who we could talk to contact and get that, you know, get involved with it. So I went to another convention, Otakon, in Baltimore, and found out that the people from DreamWorks were there, and I was trying to get a hold of them, and I couldn't find them, and we went to dinner one night. To make a long story longer, and I went into a van, we were going to dinner, and I happened to be sitting next to this beautiful Asian lady, and we started talking, and it turns out she was one of the producers of Ghost in the Shell. So I said, well, I was the voice of Bateau, the American voice of Bateau, and she didn't really care. And I said, who can I talk to at DreamWorks? And she gave me a name of a lady to call. Now, I'd worked at DreamWorks supervising a lot of movies for them overseas, doing like Galaxy Quest, Madagascar, Chicken Run, movies like that. And then Ellyn answered her phone. So I found out who did it, and I felt, well, I got some juice with these guys when I worked for them. I called them up, and I couldn't get anybody on the phone. I couldn't get anybody to return my call. So I kind of gave up. And then Ellyn and I went to a convention I'm telling you this because it's kind of a weird, long about story. Went to a convention in London, London Comic Con. And we were approached there by Manga UK. And they said, we're very upset because DreamWorks had gone ahead and released it subtitled without anybody. And the subtitles were terrible. I don't know if any of you saw it when it came out with the subtitles. But they had all the stage directions on there on top of it. And it's a very difficult film to understand anyway. But with that, it was really convoluted. So they approached us to do a bid on it. They said, we would like to have an English version of Ghost in the Shell, Innocence. Now, my dream was to do Bateau with myself directing, because as much as I love Kevin, and Kevin was great, I never really had a chance to play the character the way I really wanted to play the character. You know, I mean, there's times we would disagree about certain things. So I thought this would be great. So we bid on it. The next day they said, we'd love for you to do it, and we did it. And I got to write it, direct it, and do Bateau, and Ellyn played Haraway in it. And I thought we did a really good job on it. And 3 years after that, Bondi decided they wanted an English version of the same movie. So they got back the people who wrote the Gitz series, and they did a script, and they brought me back in to do Bateau. And I did the same exact movie with a different script, with a different director. It was kind of surreal. But I figured, what the hell, they're paying me, so what the hell, you know? Anyway, that's the kind of story of the whole thing. Did you have something you wanted to add to all that?
No. I mean, Richard's got the story. I came in on Innocence, and we discussed it in depth, how to do it, because the character was much different. My skill set that I always bring as a director is script analysis, and so anyhow, Richard was looking at the script at Bateau, and he said, you know, he hasn't got the muscle. The character just doesn't have the muscle that he used to have.
Well, I didn't say that. He was more cerebral.
I mean,
he was a lot more cerebral than he had been. He was like a man of action before, and now he just kind of thought a lot. Although there is a couple of action-packed scenes which were kind of nice.
But anyhow, in looking at it, I realized what was done in this film, and it was so really special and so unique. The cerebralness of Bateau's character was manifest throughout the film. I think it's the hardest one to understand. But if you can look at it the way I'm going to describe, you'll have a big aha moment. When you see when you see the film happen, and then the film freezes, and then you hear the music. It's
I'm hearing the music right now.
Yeah, we are. It's like a haiku poem, and the music gives you the time to digest what has just happened. That's your time to think about what has happened, and then you go on to the next scene, and then you think about what's happened, and that's why there's all these freezes. It's like a series of haiku poems. Does that make sense? And the other thing that I realized in looking at this was that none of the characters seemed really authentic except for the dog. The dog had more reality than any other characters. And if you look at what is being said within the script, it's who is more important, man or machine, which is kind of what my character Haraway is saying. Then you see the dog or animal life as being detached from the whole thing of man versus machine, that animals are unaffected by this.
Well, what's interesting is people, we should talk about innocence. People
right,
are...
I'm talking about that film in particular.
The people are becoming more like machines, and the machines are becoming more like people. And she was saying the most human thing in that movie is the dog, because he's unchanged. Yeah, I got a question.
You were saying about how like music gives you time to think about what just happened.
You know what? You can do mine because it's impossible.
Where'd the tech support guy go?
You know what?
Can we put that up there?
We dip this in.
Can you do sign language? While they're figuring out the mic,
Sorry.
while they're figuring this out, I have this is kind of a funny story. We have any Kingdom Hearts fans here? Okay, thank you. Well, the way I got the part of Ansem in Kingdom Hearts was that, just a minute, let me just finish my story, and then the Punisher can ask his question. Was because, Billy Zane did the first game, and then he either dropped out or they didn't want him, but the way I got that part was the guy who does Ansem in Japan does the voice of Bato. So they said, well, who's the guy that does the voice of Bato in America? They said, Richard Epcar, and they booked me on it right away. So that's I can count maybe, I've done over 500 parts, and I can count maybe 5 on one hand, the ones that I've been cast like that. So that was kind of a nice moment. I'm sorry, so what was your question?
You were saying about how in innocence, in innocence, how like when the music to give you time to think. I was thinking in the original movie, that whole scene where like Kuzanaki's on the ferry in the rain, is that kind of like the same effect? And she's just like, it's like just 5 minutes of her on the ferry, because it always confused me.
That's bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah, I always assumed it was just them
I think
showing off.
that's when the acid kicked in.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened.
The way I always saw it was just, they were just like, hey, look at all this money we have. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, they did some really cool 3D stuff.
It was really beautiful.
It was awesome looking. It's beautiful, but it's really, you have to think about it.
Because when I first watched it, I was just like,
yeah, the thing when they do the 3 jumps, when it's basically the same, but it changes slightly. I thought there was a glitch in the film when I was first watching it. I go, what the hell is this?
And then she like turns around and she's up in the office building, and it was just like,
it's bizarre. Yeah, it's really bizarre. So I don't know, to be honest.
yeah, I always wondered about that.
Yeah, I have to ask.
But does that make sense, what I was saying about the haiku poem? Looking at it like that? I mean, does
Any
that...
other questions? You guys just come up and grab the mic. I'm sorry, I wish we had a cordless. Okay, maybe we can get a cordless mic. Is this our tech? Are you our tech? Okay. We just need, actually, you just got this guy off the golf course, so you have no idea who he is.
Go ahead, ask your question.
Thank you.
Is the whole jumble of all the companies that have the rights to Innocence with, DreamWorks released it, then Manga UK, and then Bandai, and how they released it, what tracks were on it, and all these different scripts. Is that why it's so hard to find a DVD with the dub on it for any kind of reasonable price anymore?
Well, are you asking about the rights? Is that why there's a discrepancy because of the rights? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it seems difficult to find a copy that's not the DreamWorks copy.
Oh.
For Region 1.
Well, first of all, the one that we did for Manga UK was primarily for the UK and for Australia. So you can get it, but I think it's like what is it, what do they call it? The something one? No, not Blu-ray. They have the one, they have the different Region 1, thank you, Region 1 or Region 2, whatever that is. Which is a big thrill for everybody, it's like, let's make it even more difficult to find it.
There was also another version that was dubbed after ours because they said we want to do a Blu-ray version.
Well, that was the one I did for Bandai.
Right. And
Are you having trouble finding that as well?
I did actually manage to track down a copy at another convention last year, but trying to find one even like through Amazon.
The one that I did, you mean?
Yeah.
I think you can actually find it. It's on Amazon. I thought it was on Amazon.
I had been looking for, maybe it's back up there now. What I've been looking for originally was expensive.
Oh, well. It's the better version.
The thing, on that note, I think it is a better version. It's a very, very dense movie, and there's a lot of philosophy in there that is really profound. I think this movie sets apart all anime as being like the Shakespeare of anime. And you need time in order to go through it. But the thing is, humor, a little bit of humor ingested into it goes a long way because it's so needed. And that is what Richard brought to the writing and to the directing. And it wasn't broad strokes of humor. It was subtle, but it really, really made a difference because it brought a slight bit of levity, some tongue-in-cheek to some very, very dense material. And I think it made it much more enjoyable. So I think our version is better because of that.
And then you're welcome. And something else along those lines, actually, what you asked. It's very different in Japan. For example, let's take Batman, for example. Batman is owned by Warner Brothers, and they own the rights to everything Batman. If Batman is in print, if Batman is in a television series, if Batman's in a movie, if Batman's in whatever Batman is in a game, it's owned by Warner Brothers. In Japan, it's different. You can have one company own the game rights to a character. You can have one company own the TV rights to a character. You can have one company own the film rights to a character, which makes it really bizarre because we've done a lot of movies or TV series, and then they've gone on to become games, and it's a completely different company, and sometimes it's the same characters, but they'll change the names.
Like Blue Dragon was a game that we did, and then
they did the series, and they changed the names of some of the characters. It was just bizarre, To me, I think it's really kind of bizarre. I don't know. And if it was up to me in a perfect world, I would try to kind of coordinate, even though just to have continuity with those characters and those voices and make it sound the same. But no. Any other questions? Okay, goodbye. You, sir, in the front. Do you have a question?
With regards to Ghost in the Shell, can we ask some questions about other work?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So my question is this panel exclusively for Ghost in the Shell questions only? Are we limiting to that, or can we open up the...
No, you can ask us anything about anything of our work. It's supposed to be a Ghost in the Shell panel, but you can ask us anything about anything you'd like to know about us.
Yes.
For both of you,
You shouldn't say anything you want to know about us.
so how was the food last
Dicey.
night? How was Cars? No. So for both of you, you both had long careers, and then very varied, I'm sure. What is What is the oddest request you've gotten from a director?
From who?
From a director,
Oh, honest request from a director.
with regards to a character or a role that you're doing. Like, what's the strangest thing a director's ever asked you to do?
Oh, I know.
That you can talk about in front of kids.
We were doing this Italian movie, and what? Oh, was I soft? Oh, thank you. We were doing this Italian movie, and I was doing one of the leads in it, and anyhow, I had to run upstairs. So the director says, "Oh, so run upstairs, you're going to run fast." I said, "Okay." So I go, no, more faster. So he goes, "No, more faster. I need more faster." So I go, it sounds like an orgasm.
No. I don't, I really haven't had a weird request from a director. I don't think. I can't think of it. The only, I can think of a funny time I was in a booth one time with these two guys, and one guy was notorious for passing wind in the booth.
Oh, yes.
And the other guy, every time this guy would do it, and he would do it like every minute. He would be like farting in the booth, right? And every time this guy would do it, the other guy would laugh like a hyena. And I thought, I'm in hell. This is what hell is, right here. And when I got out, the client took me aside. He said, "Oh, you were in there with the gas man and the village idiot." And that's pretty much what it was. Yeah, it's tough. That's not a good thing to do, because sometimes the booths are very small, and it's, that was brutal. I gotta tell you, that was really brutal.
I have another director story that
Please
was
share.
odd. I mean, one of the things when you're directing, first of all, is you are the lead. Thank you. You are the leader. You are directing, and you're the captain of the entire show. Nobody else knows about the show at all. So you have to explain everything. You have to be patient, you have to be compassionate, and you have to make it fun. And if you are compassionate and patient and fun, then the actor feels creative and more empowered to create. So anyhow, there was an audition I had, and I don't remember what it was. But anyhow, 6 months later, I was called in, and they said, "You got the role." And I said, "Great, what movie? What was it for?" And they said, "Well, it was this." And the director said, "Ellyn, I want you to do the beautiful voice." I said, "Which voice?" "You know, the beautiful voice." So I wasn't sure what I had done, because there wasn't a sample of my voice so that I could match it. It was 6 months prior. So anyhow, he tried for 5 minutes to find the beautiful voice. And he said, "Ellyn, this isn't working. I'm going to have to let you go." And so I felt absolutely devastated. But as a result of that, this guy is no longer in the business. No, it's true. And not as a result of that, but cumulative stuff like that. But as a result of this, I made it so in the studios that every time you laid down an audition, that your audition was saved so that when the actor would go back, they could hear their voice. And now it's done throughout all studios, so I started that.
Yeah, you to blame for that. Yes, give it a hand. It's a big help because, you know, as we know, we jump from show to show to show. Yes, thank you very much. And, you know, it's hard. It's hard. So, you guys have any other questions for us?
Hello. This is more of like an acting question, but how do you make fake laughter believable?
How do we make what?
Fake laugh.
Fake laughter believable. Like you have to laugh.
Yeah.
And like, but like. but see what Richard just did, I know that was fake.
You have to be able to do whatever you need to do on cue.
Yeah.
And you have to cry on cue, you have to laugh on cue, and you get this muscle through being an actor and training as an actor.
You have to laugh on cue.
And so, I mean, there's a reservoir of things that we have in our pocket through doing it so many
reservoir
years.
in your pocket?
Yes. No. I mean, so you know how to laugh, you know how to cry, and then, you know, every character you get is a little bit different, so you have to alter it, you know, according to that character's needs. But you have to do everything instantly.
How about laughing like the Joker?
How about laughing like a witch?
Thank you.
Who's got questions? Take someone from this side.
For like the actual original Ghost in the Shell, how much of an influence would you say that had on just the anime genre in general?
All I got was the original Ghost in the Shell was...
Alright, so for Ghost in the Shell and like the show and stuff, how much of an influence would you say that had on the genre in general, the anime?
Oh, well, I think Ghost in the Shell is actually very different than a lot of anime out there. I mean, it's very serious. It's something I think could be a live action thing, which they're actually doing a movie right now with Scarlett Johansson as Major Kusanagi, which I think is a little weird, but
It's more
I hope it's
sophisticated
great. I
than
hope it's
anything
great.
other.
You know, I really want it to be good. They didn't ask me to come in and audition for Bateau again, those bastards. So, but I hope it's good. You know, I mean, I just hope they don't cock it all up. But I think it's, you know, it's influenced. It's a strong show, and it's probably had some influence on some of the other shows. But you know, a lot of anime is very different. I mean, there's a lot of different things. The thing that I like about anime, I don't know if it's what you guys like about anime. I think it's what you like as well. Is that I think anime pushes the envelope, and it asks a lot of questions that our animation doesn't. Our animation's kind of formulaic, and it follows a formula, and you know, you kind of know how it's going to wind up and everything. But with anime, they really go into some weird places and dark places. And
The deep, challenging philosophical questions, science fiction, philosophical.
Yeah, and I think that, if anything, has influenced our animation because it's something we never did. We did stuff like, you know, Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and all that stuff, and that's very different. They get into some really dark stuff and ask some really interesting questions, and I think that's the stuff that kind of sucks everybody into it. It makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more thought-provoking, and I think that's why people really enjoy it or get really into these shows. And I think there was a lot of that in Ghost in the Shell. I think Ghost in the Shell is very thought-provoking. As I mentioned earlier, the thing to me that's really interesting about it is the morality of technology. And this technology is coming, and the technology is growing faster than we are able to handle it, I think, at certain times. And the whole question is, you know, of course, it's like, where is the technology going to be? Is it going to be in the hands of good people or evil people? or what are they going to be the uses for this technology, and how are they going to use it? It's like we have this case right now with the guy in California. You know, they have the Apple phone, and they're trying to ask Apple to invent a way to do a backdoor
No,
in the phone.
they did crack into the phone.
Well, they didn't. Apple didn't do it.
No.
Apple didn't want to do it, and I don't blame them. But you know, it asks a lot of moralistic questions about how that technology should be used.
And which is why I think it's so profound that the dog is untouched, and the dog has more authenticity than in the illustrations.
Again with the dog.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch the dog has more reality than all the other characters.
Like, I know that the Wachowski brothers actually said that Ghost in the Shell is inspiration for The Matrix. For them, especially like
Oh,
the
sorry,
opening
it's so
scene.
hard to hear. It's so noisy.
Can you speak up just a little bit? Just talk.
The Matrix, the directors, the Wachowskis, took a lot of inspiration from Ghost in the
Yeah,
Shell.
they absolutely. Do you know that the way they got that movie greenlit was they took Ghost in the Shell, the movie, to the studio and showed them the movie and said we want to do that in live action.
Yeah, especially the scrolling numbers in the beginning of the title. That's pretty much how they got the idea for
Yeah, it's
the
right out
Matrix
of
numbers.
Ghost in the Shell. So they stole the whole thing, those rat bastards. But yeah, no, it's very, listen, when I first saw it, I thought this is really different, you know, it's really interesting, and I thought it would be a great live action movie too. I still think, I don't know what they're going to do with the new movie, but I almost wish they would kind of remake that first animated feature into live action instead of they'll probably come up with some, you know, ridiculous plot or something.
Do you know who they're going to cast as Bato in the live action?
I do. I don't know the guy's name. He's a Dutch actor. He's not nearly as good as me.
I was going to say, have you already sent him angry letters?
Not nearly as good looking as me. He's not as good an actor as I am. Plus, he's a lot shorter than I am, for God's sake. So, you know, so I think they totally screwed it up with that. But I would have loved to have gone in, you know, just as a joke or whatever. Just let me come in and read for it, for God's sake. You know? But you know, at least Peter Cullen, got to play Optimus Prime in Transformers. You know, what do they do for me? Nothing. But he's great. I was really glad about Peter getting that. Anyway, I thought he was so great. I think it was the best part of the movie, to tell you the truth.
They brought back Frank Welker as Megatron 2 in the movies.
Yeah. I know. Any other questions for us?
I've got his name right here. It's Pilo Aspaek.
Who's that name? What is his name?
Pilo.
You tell me that guy looks more like Bato than I do.
He's from Denmark.
Yeah.
And
Well, sure, they couldn't have an American play it.
he's
Not that I'm bitter or anything.
he's Bato. He did Ben-Hur. He was Pontius Pilate. He was Game of Thrones.
in Game of Thrones.
He was Euron Greyjoy.
La-di-da.
Anyhow, he's the one.
All right, question.
So my question's a bit more about Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. One of my favorite characters, because you can call it characters, was the Tachikomas. How did you feel How did you feel when they pretty much committed mass suicide to save Japan from the nuke at the end of
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's really interesting. And it's interesting that they had AIs that had grown to that place in there where they could come up with that. You know what I mean? This is what I'm talking about, what's so incredible about the show. And that was so thought-provoking about the show. For those of you guys all know who the Tachikomas are, right? It was the little tanks with the annoying voices that drank and sang. But they, they're AIs and they have artificial intelligence, and they decided. They got to a point in their intelligence that they realized that this was the only way to do it, and they did it. So I mean, it's incredible. It's really incredible. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this stuff in our world, which is a little scary. You know, we have it on our phones now with Siri and whatever the other one is for the other phones. But you know, you ask a question and it immediately comes back and tells you information from all over the world. It's really, I mean, we take this stuff for granted, but it's really astounding. And it's only going to get more, and it's only going to get, you know, I think more scary in a way because, you know, it's going to be we're going to be monitored and things are going to happen, and we have to worry about who's using this technology, how are they using the technology, and can we protect ourselves against this sort of technology?
Which comes back to the whole Apple argument, where they...
I thought you were going to go back to the dog again.
No, it goes back to the Apple argument, you know, that even though they understand that the government did want to find out what was on the terrorist phones, to unlock this door for the Apple phone would have made it, given a backdoor for all of us to have been hacked into on our Apple phones. So, I mean, you know, which is better?
Well, and then it also poses the question, if the American government can do that, then can other governments do it all over the world? Can the Russians do it? Can the Chinese do it? Can anybody do it? And the answer is yes, if you have that technology, and that's frightening, you know. Once again, it's the morality of the technology and how it's used, and that's, you know, technology in and of itself is not good or evil, it's the people that use it and how they use it. You know, it's like these hackers, you know, they hack into your computers and they're looking for information to try to get money, and it's just kind of creepy, actually, you know.
But I just want to know one thing. Where is the Prince of Nigeria?
He's with the dog.
Because he keeps asking me for money. And, you know, I don't know where he is.
We'll give it to him. Sounds like a legitimate guy. Any other questions?
I was just curious about what your favorite part like in the entirety of working on the Ghost in the Shell series. What is your favorite moment that you did, like working on it?
One of my favorite, if you're talking about the series, one of my favorite episodes was River Cruise, where he was after this crazy killer who would abduct women and do terrible things to them, and I really thought Bateau was going to find him and kill him, and because you know, honestly, that's probably what I would have done, because this guy was just horrible. I mean, he was just terrible, and but he didn't, because he's a cop and he was an honest cop, and he brought him in, and that's what he's supposed to do. So I just love that show, and that particular episode. I thought that really hit me emotionally when I was doing it, and listen, when we do our work and we get affected by what we're doing, that's all the better, I think. You know, you put that into your work. But yeah, I like that a lot, and you know, there's been a lot of moments in the series that have been great. You know. And who can forget the dog? Any other questions? My God, we got this in, we got this in.
So my question, you mentioned early on that the director has the way he wants to portray Bateau, and you have your way of how you want to portray Bateau. So my question is, what's Bateau to you? You know, is he... What
Some intense man.
Yeah. So like, what characteristics would you like to see, or do you want to see focused on?
It's not necessarily that we disagreed on who Bateau or what Bateau was. It's just that there were certain moments when he was directing me that he would have me go a certain way with a line, let's say, or with a delivery, and I just didn't really feel it was right. Didn't feel organic to me as the character. It kind of felt like, you know, when you're an actor in a situation, you kind of have to defer to the director. The director is the guy who puts the puzzle together, and you're just one piece of the puzzle. And sometimes you get a director that's really fun to work with, that you can be collaborative with and you can work with. Other times you get the directors that I call the puppet masters. And when I work with a puppet master, I basically have a switch in my brain that I just shut it down, and then I just try to give them what they want, because that's what you're hired to do. So obviously it's more fun and more gratifying as an artist if you can be collaborative with your director. But there are those directors that just have a really specific idea of what they want, and they want you to deliver the goods, and you have to deliver the goods. So, and that's what you do. You just give them what they want. Now there was a few times, I'm not saying it's all the time. I mean, if anything, it was maybe 10-15% of the time where we really disagreed on stuff. It wasn't a lot, but there were just some times where I just felt like I wish I could have done that the way I would have liked to have done that, but I have to defer to the director, so that's kind of what it is.
And on that same note, there are directors that know and understand acting, and there are directors that are just technical people that are just doing the job. If you have a director that understands performance and is directing for the performance, then that's much more gratifying, and that was also a big difference here.
Any other questions? Yes.
Okay, alright, is this on? A little louder? Okay. I have two, kind of, but I want to start with the probably easier to answer one first.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Speak louder. Getting fought on both sides.
We got these guys over here, these guys over here. It's kind of like in our house.
Okay, I kind of have two questions. I wanted to hear what you thought and what are your thoughts on Ghost in the Shell Arise, because I remember you being really excited about it to the point of saying a line that was pretty embarrassing, and I'm not going to repeat it, but if you go on YouTube, you can find yourself and hear yourself say it again. But
What?
You said something really.
I said some embarrassing things about Ghost in the Shell?
You said something about really wanting to be involved about Ghost in the Shell Arise.
Oh, Arise.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not in Arise, so of course I'd be upset about that.
Yeah, but that was 3 years ago, before they had the dub coming out. That was my first thing. I wanted to hear about that. And then afterwards, there's something like in Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, Bato and Tosa have a really interesting relationship. And I wanted to hear what your thoughts were on working with Crispin Freeman on that, and what kind of things, did you trade ideas with each other when you were recording for that? Yeah.
Well, first of all, when we go in, we record one actor at a time. So I didn't really get to interact that much with Crispin. Although I have to tell you, Crispin was very, very helpful to me when I did Innocence, when I directed it, because when you get a movie like that and they're asking you to direct it, but it's already been done, you have to really kind of stay true to what the original director was trying to create. You can't just go in there and say, oh, I'm just going to change all this shit and do it the way I want to do it, you know what I mean? You have to do it and be true to what they've created, and that's tough sometimes. Particularly with Innocence, because it was all platitudes and sayings and religious sayings and songs and things like that, where they were speaking that as dialogue. That was very difficult because we had to make that fit the lip sync, and it didn't always fit the lip sync, So you had to it was very tough. So I had long conversations with Crispin about it, and he helped me. He actually helped me a lot, because Crispin's really into this stuff. He knows, he's very familiar with anime and the whole thing. He studied this stuff. He knows it inside out, and so he was a great help. And he's always fun to work with. I've directed him, and Ellyn's directed him. And, he's great. Now getting back to the Arise thing. I was probably disappointed because the Funimation got it in Texas, and they do their own stuff in Texas. We're from Los Angeles, so it's a whole different thing. But they snatch up a lot of good stuff, those guys, and they almost got Lupin the Third too, and I was glad we got it. We were very happy we got it, and that we were able to bring back the original cast, and Ellyn and I got to direct it. And listen, I have nothing against them. They do their own thing, but it's. I knew once they got that Ghost in the Shell that we weren't going to be in it. So the good news is there's a new Ghost in the Shell game called First Assault, which is online, and Mary and I do our characters on that, so we reprise our characters. And that was very cool to be brought back and do it again.
I only have one more thing to say. I always wondered this because you have your bloopers outtakes panel, and I always wondered, were there like a blooper reel for Ghost in the Shell?
Well, we never had a blooper reel for Ghost in the Shell because Kevin Seymour, the director, was very serious, and he didn't want us to fool around. Now, when I'm directing, I want everybody to fool around. I want people to have fun, and the reason I do that, it's not just to be silly, but it's fun to be silly. But the reason I do it is because when you have an actor in the booth and you're playing and you're being funny and silly, the actor feels relaxed and creative. When you're uptight and you're trying to, be, strident with the actor tightens up. And you're not, my personal feeling is you're not going to get the best performance out of an actor like that. You're going to get the best performance out of an actor by allowing the actor to be creative and free and relaxed. So that's the environment I try to create when I direct.
And speaking of outtakes, as Richard was saying, we just did the Lupin the Third Blue Jacket series, and we've got a lot of outtakes from that because we both did a lot of outtakes.
Brand new, so hopefully.
So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Maybe at some point I'll be able to add that to my outtake show. My outtake show, by the way, is tonight at 10 o'clock. It's an 18-plus show.
And it's very blue.
It's very funny. We have outtakes from Lupin the Third, from Nolan, and bo 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 bo. So.
And perhaps we'll have one shot from the new Lupin the Third.
Yeah, one little thing that's not a blooper, but it's something we had to do for the show. Did I say something bad about our eyes?
You didn't say anything bad. Do you want me to say what you said?
Sure, what did I say?
You said, and I quote, this is verbatim, "Who do I have to go down on to get involved in this thing?"
I can't believe I would ever say anything like that. Wait a minute, was that after 6 martinis or something? Wow, I can't believe that. That's terrible. It's on there, man. Wow.
I have a question about the Ghost in the Shell game. When you play it?
I haven't played it yet. It looks, the artwork looks amazing. Have you played it? Have you done it?
I haven't. I'm just wondering.
I gotta tell you something, guys. I am a terrible gamer. I did Skywarp and Transformers, and the studio had a big rap party for us. And they had these giant screens and controllers, and we each got to play our own character. Well, I don't know if any of you played War for Cybertron, but there's like a cave, and you got to get out of the cave and you go on your mission. Well, it took me like an hour to get out of the cave. So I'm going, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm a much better actor than I am a gamer, unfortunately. And I don't have the time to do the games, or sometimes I don't even get to watch our shows that we do.
We generally don't. Our kids used to play games, and so we had, stuff at home. I don't know. Mario Brothers. What is that about?
No. Just keep thinking about the dog. It's okay. Any other questions? Yeah, so I got a bunch of questions.
I was just wondering, across the entire Ghost in the Shell chronology, what was the most difficult thing you had to do as either voice actor, director, anything? What was the most difficult for you personally?
Well, I honestly, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything, but I really don't have a problem doing acting or directing. The only time it's hard for us as voice actors is when we're doing like Call of Duty or Spec Ops or one of those games like that, where you're just basically screaming your ass off for hours, you know, because you have to be louder than the tanks and the machine guns and all that stuff. So you're basically just screaming and screaming. I just recently worked on a game, yeah, like this. I just recently worked on a game, and I never had to do this before, but they actually hired a, what do you call the person I work with to get the accent for this? A dialectician to work with for the game, because they wanted this specific dialect from this region, and they wanted it to be, you know, authentic and real. And that was really fun for me, because I mean, I've done that on stage, or I've done that, you know, on camera, but I've never had anyone request that for me as a voice actor. So that was kind of an interesting thing. It was a very difficult accent to master, and I'm really fortunate in that I have a good ear for that kind of stuff. I can really hear stuff, and I was able to pick it up really quickly, but. That was tough. I mean, it was a lot of work, a lot of extra work that we don't normally do in games. So that was a lot of fun. It was challenging. And it's always nice to be challenged, and it's always nice to grow as an artist and do things that make it. But that's one thing I loved about stage work, was because every time I did another play, I would have to learn something different, or you know, a part on TV. I have to learn something different, or be different, or you know, learn how to fight, ride a horse, or do different things that I might not necessarily do. So it was really kind of interesting, and I love that aspect of it, you know.
I directed Star Wars into the Navajo language, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. And the purpose of doing this was to inspire other Navajos to learn their own language. The elders have the language, the youth don't. And so there's a disconnect between the grandparents and the youth. And so it was very challenging, but extraordinarily rewarding. I had 170 auditions, and from that I had to choose the actors to work in the movie. It turned out really, really wonderfully. I got a guy who was, he was a comic, but he wasn't an actor, and he did Han Solo, and he sounds exactly like Harrison Ford. I cast a woman as C-3PO. I mean, it was just wonderful. I'll tell you a very quick story. I was trying to get performance out of one of the Navajos, and these were people who were speakers, Navajo speakers, not actors. So I'm explaining to this guy who's doing one of the stormtroopers, okay, this is the end of the movie. You know how when you hear the music and it's building and you've got to shout it out. You know, I've been hit, and he's got to do it in Navajo. I had translators, I had people who spoke Navajo, who taught Navajo there with me, who were helping me. So. Anyhow, I said, okay, you're going to hear the 4 beeps, the 3 beeps. On the imaginary 4th beep, you're going to go, I've been hit! You know, because you're frightened, you're terrified. You know, when all the ships are flying around and your ship's going to explode, you're going to die. He goes, okay. So I hear, boom, 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 I've been hit. Go, okay. Remember, this is a Navajo. I don't speak Navajo. So I go, okay, we're going to try it once more. Really loud. You're going to yell it to your buddy across to the other side of the room. I've been hit. Boom, boom, boom. I've been hit. I said, okay, I'm going to come into the booth. I'm going to hold you up. He looks at me very strangely. I said, I'm going to hold you up, and I'm going to rob you. And he looks at me even more strangely. I said, but when you hear the imaginary fourth beep, that's when you're going to shout, I've been hit. So it goes beep, beep, beep. And I stick my finger into his back. And he goes, I've been hit! And it worked. So I had to use a lot of techniques that I know as an actor in order to elicit performances out of people. And, that was challenging. As an actor, I don't find it challenging because every time I have another role, I love it and I jump into it. And that's the fun of it. And as Richard was saying, on stage or film or television, I do a lot of work. I just finished with Madame Thénardier and Les Miserables, and that was great fun. And there was a fight scene where we had to, and I had to die, and I had to fight with a gun, and we had a fight coordinator, and you learn stuff, and that's all exciting. But the most challenging thing is when you have a difficult director who is impatient and isn't cooperative or is rude to the actors. That is the most challenging thing. Other than that, it's a playground and a joy to create.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. So who has the last question? You, I saw you first.
Hi. The question I have for you is, you've both directed individually and collaboratively. What is your process for each one, and how does it differ?
What is our process for what?
For directing individually as opposed to collaboratively.
Directing as opposed to acting?
Directing together, directing separately. What's your process like?
Oh, when we direct together, is that what you're saying? We don't actually direct at the same time together. We would, when we did Lupin, Ellyn was in a different studio and I was in one studio, and she would, because we had to get this done in less than a month. We had 26 episodes to direct. It was insane. And we literally were 9 in the morning to 11 o'clock every night. Every day until this thing was finished, even on the weekends, because they had a crazy time frame that they needed this done by, and it was insane. So, but these were, for me, it was characters I was very familiar with and that I had worked with before, and I had directed the Red Jacket series 12 years ago, and was very familiar with those, and I played Jigen in this series, so I was very familiar with it, and so it was just like putting on an old pair of shoes that were comfortable, you know what I mean? So it's very, very nice to work with those guys.
For me, directing is explaining the background of the character, giving as much information about the story and about the character to the actor so the actor has the tools that are needed. And because walking in, the actor doesn't know what is going on at all. They walk in for a few hours and then they walk out. And so you've got to give them as much information as possible. And again, being patient. If the actor doesn't get it on the first try, or they're feeling uptight, you've got to make the actor feel relaxed and feel supported. If the actor feels supported and relaxed, then they'll be able to create more. And humor is one way. And directing is like teaching, is like being a parent. It's love. And you've got to love the actor and give them love and support them in what they're doing.
We have to wrap it at this point, but I just wanted to remind everyone that we have an autograph panel. At what time, Larry?
6 o'clock to 7 in Vine autograph area, which is down. If you guys know what registration is, it's all the way down, so you can't go any further. It's right next to registration. That's going to be from 6 to 7:30. Also, Richard has his famous outtakes panel from 10 to 11 tonight in live programming 1, which is down on the second floor.
Yes.
So with that being said, the session is over. Can we get one big round of applause and thank you. Thank you guys. And again, I encourage you guys, if you have autographs, head on down the autograph session. It's going to be starting in just over an hour down in Vine Street.